and welcome to today's session on private networks. I'm Hema from TeckNexus, and I'm delighted to have Mika and Jose joining me from Cumucore and Aaron joining me from Celestic. They recently deployed a successful private network deployment in a post-hurricane zone in North Carolina. Cumucore also recently won TeckNexus Award for Excellence in Private Network Deployment for public safety, specifically in context of this particular deployment. Welcome, Mika, Jose, and Aaron. Before we initiate our conversation, I would appreciate if you can take a few minutes to introduce yourself as well as your organization. Thank you.
I'm Mika Skarp from Cumucore. In Cumucore, taking care of the business side of the company. Background over 25 years in mobile networks and telco business, and I've been working with the private networks for quite a long time already.
Okay, I can continue. So my name is Jose Costa-Requena. I'm Cumucore co-founder and CTO, and large background on telecommunications, software implementation, design, and so on.
Hi, I'm Aaron Huslage. I'm the CEO of Celestic. We're the implementation partner for this, along with our kind of sister organization, Operation Connect Carolina. I have a lot of, I've been doing disaster response communication since 2008, or 2005, excuse me, since Hurricane Katrina. And that's what we're doing here.
Thank you so much for the introduction. Let's begin with our first question. So what were some of the considerations when you decided to deploy a private network? What were some of the challenges? And how did you overcome those challenges to successfully deploy private network post-hurricane in North Carolina?
Well, it's all from our perspective. It's all started from the email from Aaron on a Sunday morning that Aaron was planning to do something, and then he was asking that can Cumucore help? Well, we answered immediately that yes, we do whatever we can. This was actually third time on my career having this kind of a request. The first time was after the 9/11. Then I was living in San Diego working for Nokia, and then organizations, they were asking for CDMA base stations to be able to scan handsets from the rooms. And then it was the Catherine after the Hurricane Catherine. And then we were looking for base stations, and now it was again for the Helene. So from our perspective, the biggest challenge was that nothing was kind of prepared. So it was something that for the mobile network, basically what you need is a radio core and the transport. And well, we are the core vendor. We can help setting up the whole thing, but we really started from scratch. That where are the base stations? What will be the backhaul and so on.
Yeah, I can continue. So I think that as Mika said, when Aaron called us, and definitely, I mean, it's a matter of trying to help and deploy and bring these communications to in this kind of environment. So my response say that all hands on deck. So and I think that it was quite a learning curve, because first of all, we had to work a different time zone. I mean, when Aaron was asking for some support, it was nighttime hours on our side, and vice versa. So that was quite challenging, and doing that remotely was also a bit of a struggle. But we were able to pull it through. And I think that the sort of reward was that we got it. So we put all the pieces together. I mean, a small deployment. I mean, and for us it was the bringing like different pieces into the puzzle, like the core into this device that we have to make a bit of magic to get it working together with a radio, and then the eSIM, and then the Starlink. So I mean, it was a bit overwhelming, but I think that we were able to put it all in place. So, but yeah.
And you
from
said, yeah.
from my perspective, I mean, I echo what these guys said. You know, the hurricane hits. I knew people that were affected directly by it, that lost communications for weeks and lost power and everything else. And the Sunday after it hit, my friend Brandon Ho and I were having coffee, and he's like, "What are we going to do?" And I said, "Okay, let's figure it out." And called these guys, called Ripsim and Mozo Labs, and I said, "What can we do to help?" And everybody jumped up and said, "Yes, we're going to help," which I think was just phenomenal. Like the willingness to jump into something completely unknown to all of us is like, with partners that have never worked together, with equipment that, you know, I wasn't even sure I could get at the time. You know, it was insane. And so, you know, this was literally unknown on every front from everybody. So, you know, I got servers from Lenovo. I got, you know, we bought radios from Mozo Labs. We had Ripsim do eSIMs. We had Cumucore do the core network. And, you know, I was getting up at 5 a.m. to work with them in Finland, and they were staying up until, you know, 11 o'clock at night to, you know, one night everybody stayed up overnight pretty much. And, you know, but we got it working. And there were lots of challenges, but honestly, I think we all learned a ton from that experience about how to be more nimble and how to be more agile around what we're trying to do. And this was a product that we were going to build in 6 months. You know, I'd been talking to Cumucore for a while, but, you know, we weren't ready to go yet. And now, you know, we're just like speed running this whole thing. So.
Thank you. Thank you. That's a very good insights on how you came together to get this deployment. You also mentioned there were a number of partners, including Ripsim, Mozo Labs, and Starlink, but you also mentioned a few other partners. Can you elaborate the role of each of the partner, both from technology perspective? I mean, mainly from the technology perspective, coming together to have this overall private network solution.
Yeah, from my perspective, Cumucore was the biggest piece of that, right? They're the core network. If they don't work, nothing works. Ripsim is a fairly new eSIM company based in Virginia, who are doing amazing things and really making that whole pipeline a more agile thing. Mozo Labs has made radios for many years. They're part of Sercom, based in Taiwan. Their products are really good. They're very well understood and have good management tools and all that stuff. We also partnered through at one point I did some local media here in North Carolina, and on the whiteboard over my shoulder was a thing about Starlink, and then it said OneWeb ? And a guy from a company called Kymeta, which is they make a satellite terminal for OneWeb, which is another enterprise grade kind of version of Starlink. It's not Starlink, but it's a different constellation. His wife saw that on TV, and she said to Chris, "Hey, you need to call this guy." And so now we have this big partnership with Kymeta for integrating their network, the OneWeb network, into what we're doing as well. So, you know, Starlink played a huge role in the recovery in general out west in North Carolina. There's still a lot of Starlink dishes out there. I think they said they activated 18,000 dishes in that area. So, it was a vital link, but at the same time, there's a lot of options, and we needed to provide options for people. So, and like I said, Lenovo stepped up on the server side. So all the server hardware was from Lenovo, which is a local company. And well, I mean, their U.S. headquarters are here in North Carolina as well. So, a lot of people came together to make this happen. It wasn't easy by any stretch to make that happen. And the Cumucore was, again, like the center of that whole thing, because without it, nothing works. So, and it's a great piece of software. It's really good.
Yeah, I think.
Thank you, Aaron.
Yeah.
Sure.
Technically, the new thing here, what we are seeing is that after the Hurricane Catherine, we came up with then working for Nokia, we came up basically a similar kind of a kit than what was put together here. And we got a lot of understanding that when there is this kind of a catastrophe, then we need to rebuild some of the communication networks immediately. But the organizations, they were not able to come to the agreement about the frequencies, SIM cards, roaming, and all that kind of stuff. And now the reason why we are able to do this is that there is a CBRS in place, that you have access to frequency, you have a eSIM that you can easily distribute to the SIM card, so the authentication will work. So I would say that we are great companies, all of us, but then kind of what is underneath is the technological development over the last decade that enables us to do this. And hopefully, I really hope that we will learn as a kind of societies, and we will be better prepared for this. There will be more hurricanes, there will be more earthquakes, there all kind of things will happen in the future. So being prepared, we can do these things ad hoc. It's kind of fun. I don't know, but to be prepared, that would kind of make a huge difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that the important thing is that Aaron was able to pull all the strings together, because otherwise it will not happen, and pushing all of us towards this objective. But overall, I think that it's important to have this ecosystem. I mean, to bring all these different technologies together, because single technology, single partner on its own cannot make it happen. So I think that in this scenario, I mean, the radios, the eSIM, all the hardware, all these Starlink, the connections and everything. Those having those and then partnering and create this ecosystem is quite important in this kind of scenarios. And then that availability of technology, for example, this CBRS, having this possibility to utilize that frequency, because I mean, recently there have been some floodings in my hometown in Spain, in Valencia. More than 200 people died, and they have been weeks without these communications. I mean, they are operators, but then there is not the framework where we can go and do the same thing. There is not in place. So in that area, then the government doesn't have this kind of infrastructure that you have in the States that make this happen. So I think that this ecosystem is important, and having someone that is able to pull all this together.
Thank you. That's a good overview of the technologies used. Earlier, you had also mentioned about the QR codes that was making it easier from an end user perspective. So beyond CBRS, eSIM, and the technologies that you have already referenced, were there any other additional technologies that you leveraged to make it easy for the end user to access the connectivity?
Go ahead.
No, go on.
Yeah, I would say that it's basically on 5G SA network, so that you need to have obviously you need to have a 5G SA device, so it can connect the routers. You can use the Wi-Fi to distribute the capacity or the 5G SA phone, but I don't come anything more than that.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, we're actually even working on a kind of next generation version of this where when you connect to the Wi-Fi, because you have to connect to the internet, right, to get the eSIM. So when you connect to the Wi-Fi, it guides you through everything you need to do. So there's not we're trying to make it super simple for anybody. And if you have a device that won't work, it'll tell you, right? It'll just say, sorry. And it'll be nicer than that. But I think there are, the handsets are coming a long way in the last couple of years to making this a reality. The sort of bumpy deployment of 5G SA means that the user experience isn't perfect on the handsets right now, but I think that's going to get better over time. So,
and in the future, we all could have that kind of a eSIM on our handset that is activated when the catastrophe hits.
Yeah,
that's a kind of a one thing to have prepared.
So moving on from a long-term perspective, how do you see the role of private networks for disaster recovery? All the work that you guys have done, do you think that is something that can be productized in some shape or form so that it's, for faster deployment and so on, the challenges that you overcome? How do you see this going forward?
Yeah, I think that this kind of system should become more sort of easy to use, easy to deploy, because in these kind of scenarios, when all these events happen, then you need something that is robust, that you can, throw it from somewhere and then it start working immediately with no user intervention. So I think that this kind of technology should make it available. It should be more like a common use. And as Aaron said, needs to be improved. Adding Wi-Fi, adding any other technologies that then it can be utilized immediately, because there is a huge variety of devices iPhones, Androids, or whatever, and then it will facilitate this kind of personal communications. In this kind of disaster, we need to look at the human factor. The people get lost, they try to find, they need this kind of communications. And if those infrastructure is not available or is congested or whatever, then bringing this kind of systems that is deployed immediately and robust and brings this kind of immediate communications, that's adding a huge value. Not technically or monetary, but from the personal point of view. I think that that's the most important part.
Yeah, we've been talking to a lot of agencies locally in the region that was affected, about how to make that a reality, and what their needs are, and how we I guess an example is yesterday I was in the North Carolina mountains in a town called Tryon.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was like, all their communications were knocked out, and it's very mountainous, so there are places where there just aren't comms anyway, because they're in a hard to reach place from a radio perspective. The guy said they had their emergency operations center set up, and they had fiber that was still online there. So who knows how, but and he said there were all these people in the parking lot using their phones to talk to people on the Wi-Fi that they had set up, you know, because they had public Wi-Fi in that little area. And it made it, sorry, excuse me. It made it really hard for them to do their work because all these people were using all the bandwidth that the fiber had. So they put up a Starlink and built a little separate network for their own emergency operations center. And so we talked about, you know, how we can do better quality of service and network slicing and things like that to make both people's experience better. But we need to do this in a turnkey way. These are not telecoms people at all, right? There is usually an IT person who understands Wi-Fi and networking, like local area networking and stuff, but they're not telecoms people. And I think we're finally reaching the point where we can sort of democratize access to this technology in a way that we've never been able to do before. And I think, you know, companies like Cumucore, Ripsim, et cetera, are kind of at the forefront of that. Like Jose was saying, like this just has to be able to be turned on and work.
And those kind of from the productization, commercialization perspective, that these catastrophes, they don't necessarily need to be so huge all the time, but there are kind of cases where the authorities, they go into the middle of nowhere and there are a lot of authorities in place at the same time, and for those kind of places, bringing in a system that has kind of a local good local coverage, and then an backhaul over the satellite makes a huge difference. You know, if there is a wildfire, like, you know, somewhere in the deserts, so then suddenly there needs to be a lot of fighters on that area, and typically, but if there is some radio coverage, it's not that great. It has not been dimensioned for that kind of a purpose. So there are those kind of a smaller exceptional situations where this kind of a product would make sense.
Thank you so much for taking time to elaborate on this successful deployment. Before we wrap up, Mika, Jose, and Aaron, is there anything else that you would like to add? Maybe from this deployment or your previous private network deployments in similar scenarios?
Yeah, no, I think that we have deployed this private network in different scenarios, but I would say this has been, I would say, the more challenging, but at the same time, the more rewarding what we managed to get at the end of that. And we thank Aaron to count on us for this kind of deployment, and we look forward for the next challenge from Aaron.
Thank you.
Yeah. It was not easy. I think it's never easy, but we are working hard to make it easy. That's the target what the Cumucore has, is to make the private networking easy. So that's
Yeah, I think that I think that focusing on the humane response, I don't know where my words just went, focusing on the good of what we did is really important. I think no technology is going to fix the problem. The problems are with disaster response are huge, and they're always different. And you know, I go out into the field and I meet these people whose lives are devastated, and but when I put up the pole that has the antenna on it, and people all of a sudden their phones start dinging, you know, with all the messages they missed or whatever. that feels like something is happening. And connectivity is a human right. It's not an optional piece of the world anymore. And so, whatever we can do to help with that is super important, I think.
Maybe I add one more thing that when looking to the future, when adding AI into our lives, the connectivity will be even more important in the future.
Cool. Thank you so much, Aaron, Mika, and Jose, for your time. I much appreciate this inputs and looking forward to speaking with you for future deployments. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.